was no lack of preparation. In addition, all Jewish facilities in the area are going to have a lot of extra presence around it until we figure this out.
What about the school up the street, Pleasant Lake? Is it safe over there? Pleasant Lake Elementary is right here?
Well, again, we would tell everybody to shelter in place.
Okay.
Was there any security at this temple, as you mentioned?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
And they engaged the threat.
So there was one person that approached the security guard and...
That's still a work in progress.
Okay, and then shots were fired?
Shots were fired.
There are reports that somebody crashed with a vehicle into a building.
A vehicle was involved.
Did it breach the building?
We're going to get into more details when there's time for that, and the chief will lay out exactly, specifically what happened. But we just want everybody to kind of know what's happening as we get it. More will come to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff, will you come back here to run the time?
Yes.
Or this exact spot?
Yeah. Okay. Whatever the chief believes, it's time will come back.
Thank you.
We've been listening to officials in West Bloomfield, Michigan, giving us an update on this response to reports of an active shooter at a synagogue there at Temple Israel, where there is a school. And we just heard from Sheriff Michael Bouchard in Oakland County saying that an individual came to the temple, security engaged him in gunfire. So the facility itself apparently already had some security. They engaged this individual. Right now, law enforcement does not have that person in custody. The sheriff there was asked if that suspect was neutralized or whether they are still on the run. His answer, it's a work in progress. This is a big facility with a lot of land around it. These are photos taken from the air just moments ago. It appears that there is some kind of smoke emerging from the building. We're not sure exactly what that is. We'll obviously try to dig into that. But it's notable that at this point, Jessica, no one is hurt.
Yes, and that he said everyone, in his words, had been moved out of the school. So that is, yes, very important information here as we work to learn more. And his wording was interesting. His language was there's no active stimulus at that scene. Again, we can rely on Charles Ramsey and Juliet Kayyem, who are standing by, to help us understand what that means. One more thing that I think is worth noting is that the sheriff was saying there that he's been talking to the police chief, and they have been sharing intel about something like this potentially happening in the last 2 weeks, that they were prepared and that this was a scenario that they had considered. And that there was, in their words, no lack of preparation for this. So again, this is still kinetic, this is still happening, but Boris just laid out what we do know. I believe Charles Ramsey is standing by. Is he with us?
Yep.
Okay. You heard there from the local law enforcement. You have so much experience in this area. What did you take away from what you were hearing?
Well, it sounds like, as of now anyway, no one was injured except perhaps the individual who approached the school, whether this was the driver of the car or what have you. It's also unclear whether or not there was an exchange of gunfire or if it was the guards shooting at the individual. We don't know if the person was struck or not. When they asked the question about whether he'd been neutralized, that must not have happened. He must be out on foot. They still have a shelter in place right now. So things are unfolding and unfolding pretty quickly. I noticed from one of the camera angles that you have with all the resources there, that's a staging area. One of the challenges when you have something like this happen is in organizing all those resources, the people that have shown up now to conduct a search, a systematic search of the area. Because if this person did flee on foot, don't know if he's wounded or not, or she is wounded or not, then you need to continue a systematic search in order to locate the person.
Chief Ramsey, please stand by. I want to go to Shimon Prokupecz, who is joining us. Shimon, what stands out to you from what we just heard from the sheriff there?
Look, I think one of the things that's so important in all of this is that just how much folks are on high alert given what's going on in Iran. But just in general, I mean, temples, synagogues, places of worship, schools have all trained for these kinds of situations. And it's really significant and noteworthy here that there were armed guards present at this site, because sadly, no one really feels 100% safe, right? And so a lot of the institutions, from our schools to many of the religious communities and institutions, now have these armed guards. And there are layers of security that are in place to prevent something like this from happening. Here you see there's a tweet here from the FBI Director, Kash Patel. As we would expect, the FBI here is on scene with the partners in Michigan and responding to the apparent vehicle ramming and active shooter situation out of Temple Israel Synagogue in West Bloomfield Township. I'm already getting calls and texts from people in that community who are very concerned over what has happened here. Word is spreading pretty quickly. They're saying that the only people that would be inside that school would be the staff, the teachers, and that there was pre-K children inside that school at the time. And so far, it appears, thankfully, that everything worked as it should. Sadly, really horrific moments for the people certainly in this community and for the people inside that school and Temple. But it does appear right now, we heard from the sheriff there, that they were able to take action to prevent perhaps from anything more severe. It's not clear. I think it is notable that there's this fire, looks like a fire, black smoke coming from the location. So it is going to, we need to learn more about that. And also just this community and this county in Michigan, I covered a school shooting there a number of years ago, and it was that same sheriff who handled that school shooting. It was a really tragic situation. So that community, that police department, the sheriff there has extensive experience in dealing with situations like this. And you can just see by their response how quickly law enforcement responded, that certainly everyone has been on high alert just in case something like this could happen. And here we see this situation. No doubt that it does appear that at this point that this location was being targeted for what it is, and that will certainly mean that the FBI will likely take control of this investigation and try and figure out exactly the motive. But it would appear, at least at this point, based on the FBI's involvement and other information, that this is going to raise a lot of concerns because it does appear that this synagogue was specifically targeted.
Certainly. All right, Shimon, stand by. We are hearing from Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She writes in a statement, "I am tracking reports of an active shooting at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. We are working with Michigan State Police to get more information. This is heartbreaking. Michigan's Jewish community should be able to live and practice their faith in peace. Anti-Semitism and violence have no place in Michigan, and I am hoping for everyone's safety. Thank you to law enforcement for their swift action." Again, that's from Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And as Shimon noted, Kash Patel letting us know that the FBI is also on the scene there. Let's bring Juliet Kayyem back in, because Juliet, we were just talking when we went to the sheriff there, who was giving us the most information we've gotten so far. What stood out to you?
I think it's absolutely that he said specifically in the last 2 weeks, he has been in contact with federal authorities as well as the Jewish community about the heightened threat level. It is something that all of us have been warning about, that, this may be a regional war, but it's going to have global consequences. And one of them is going to be incitement, radicalization, in particular, as Islamic terrorist groups are utilizing the war, like ISIS, to go online and to lure people to violence. Now, is that this specific case? We don't know. But when you ask me, what did I take away from that? I took away the fantastic news, and let's hope it holds, that no one but the assailant was shot. That is beyond everyone is incredibly grateful, and the private security there is likely responsible for that. But the second is, though we're not hearing much from the federal government on this, neither DHS, FBI, nor the National Counterterrorism Center have issued a formal bulletin, what we call a formal intelligence bulletin to law enforcement. It is clear to me, state and local law enforcement, about the increased threat environment. It is clear to me that state and locals are taking it upon themselves. They see the news to ensure that places that may be targeted, and in particular, synagogues, in this case, a synagogue or the Jewish community, are focused on, and that the threat environment that people that I talk to right now who are in the state and local world are worried about two things. One, of course, what we've seen today, attacks against the Jewish community, and then, of course, attacks against Iranian Americans. And so all of that is part of this horrible stew of terrorism and incitement that we live in now in a world online and in a world where violence is too prevalent. And so once again, the fact that the sheriff said 2 weeks, that's not a coincidental 2 weeks. Every law enforcement agent knew, or leader knew, that this war was going to have consequences in the homeland, in ways that we are seeing. Well, that we could be seeing today. I'll be careful, but in ways that we should anticipate the longer this war goes.
Of course. Let's go to retired NYPD Detective Michael Alcazar. Sir, I wonder, when you hear the sheriff say that this perpetrator is not yet in custody, that it's still a work in progress, that they're working to secure the perimeter around this place of worship, what exactly does that entail?
I think the sheriff just being cautious of what information he releases. He did say that school security engaged the individual. So to me, if I had to take an educated guess, it sounds like they stopped the threat. It was good response. They had security in the school. So it tells me that they did a good job hardening the target, right? That's what we got to do in this current climate. A lot of sensitive locations should have security, should have law enforcement. And it sure sounds like they did in this location. It was a good response for multiple agencies. And right now, what they're probably going to do is, like what the sheriff said, is going to do a room by room clearance to make sure that there's no other bad actors on the scene. So they have one individual. I'm assuming they have him in custody. I don't know why he said that, but maybe they didn't place him on arrest. Maybe they're interviewing him right now. Maybe they're interrogating him and trying to get any more information from him. That's what I take away from that.
All right. Thank you so much. Stand by, Michael. We're going to come back to you. Again, we are following this breaking news of reports of an active shooter at a synagogue with a school in it. We are getting more information by the moment. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Why do I have to wait for payday? I show up for work every day. I should have access to my money when I want. That's why I bank fee-free at Chime. My paycheck hits up to 2 days early when I direct deposit, and I get fee-free overdraft that has my back. Plus, I can get paid when I say, up to $500. No credit check, no interest, no mandatory fees. Finally, I'm in control of my money. This is so awesome. I got everyone I know to join. Join the millions of members like us, banking fee-free at Chime.
Whether it's your future health, your future income, or your future happiness, becoming an AARP member today can help. Join now for just $11 per year with a 5-year term and get a second membership free. Call or go online to join today, because the younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hello, Rue. You owe me money.
If you make a deal with the devil, there's no turning back.
Welcome to All There Is Live, a weekly live stream where I talk to others about grief and loss.
I don't think that I was ever prepared for loss.
You'll hear deeply moving and honest discussions with people living with life-altering losses.
We all have this common tragedy. Nobody's rushing to make it better.
Grief is something that will live with you forever. It changes you, but it doesn't always have to be a negative change.
Now streaming at cnn.com/allthereis. All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen at cnn.com/allthereis.
CNN This Morning with Audie Cornish. Weekdays at 6 a.m. on CNN.
I've never seen anything I've done twice.
Okay, no CNN, no Variety. You've seen Interstellar once?
Yeah.
No way, man.
Now streaming on the CNN app.
Eva Longoria, Searching for France, premieres April 12th on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
CNN and Variety Red Carpet Live, Sunday at 4 on CNN.
We're following breaking news right now out of West Bloomfield, Michigan, where police have swarmed the scene of a reported active shooting and a car being driven into a local synagogue where there is a school.
Temple Israel is situated just outside of Detroit. Let's listen to the Oakland County Sheriff just a few moments ago.
At least one individual came to the temple. Security saw him, engaged him in gunfire. The scene, we're not getting any active stimulus at the moment. We have everything here that we need, including, medics and tactical gear. We're looking to see if there's more than one person. We're still trying to figure that out. We're trying to get access to the video. At the moment, we just tell people that shelter in place for at least a mile area until we determine that there's no one else that maybe was on foot and fled the area, until we figure out exactly what's going on, number one. Number two, reunification will be at the JCC, the Jewish Center, and that's where parents will go to pick up their kids. It's going to be secured by law enforcement, so no fear there. If you have nothing to do with the situation, don't go there. Don't come to the area. It's active and it's busy, and we're still trying to figure it out.
Let's bring in CNN national correspondent Jason Carroll. Also in those comments, it appeared he said that all of the children had been moved out of the school. Everybody had been moved out of the school. And to his understanding, no one had been injured except potentially that suspect. What more can you tell us, Jason?
All good points, Jessica. And another point that I noticed that he brought up there as well, that being Sheriff Michael Bouchard, he said no active stimulus at this moment. So perhaps, and again, it's still very early on, but perhaps, that gives us an indication that the situation has been neutralized. But again, we're still waiting for more information. The sheriff there also saying that they're trying to determine if they're dealing with one person or more than one person. There were a lot of early concerns given that this temple also houses an early childhood center, a preschool, a kindergarten, a daycare center. So you can just imagine just how difficult this was for parents, for folks who have people who are connected to the temple, who were finding out, learning about these early reports of, shots being fired there and a car being driven into Temple Israel. So you can imagine what the folks there on the ground are dealing with. The sheriff was indicating that this is a large area, as you can see there from the aerial footage that we're showing you now. This is a large area surrounding the temple. So what law enforcement on the ground has to do is they've got to not only clear that very large building or buildings that you're looking at there, but the surrounding area as well. They've got to do both of that. Again, a very large facility, but you do have a massive law enforcement response there on the ground that they have as well. You've got local police, you've got sheriff as well. The FBI has indicated that they are involved with this investigation going forward as well. Again, there was a post from the Jewish Federation of Detroit which said early on, we are aware of an active security incident at Temple Israel. Law enforcement are responding. Our Jewish agencies are currently in precautionary lockdown. We ask community members to stay away from the area at this time. Hard for any parents, again, or anyone connected to the temple to stay away from the area. But we did get encouraging news from the sheriff there on the ground that that he was saying that no one had been hurt as a result of what happened there on the ground. As you can see there, from the banner we're putting up, no confirmed injuries after the shooting at the synagogue with the school. But the community has been on heightened alert given what we've seen in the country, a rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country. So you can imagine just the state of mind of people there on the ground. Again, trying to get some more information now about this person who initiated all of this. This person who, from all accounts, drove some sort of a vehicle into Temple Israel. And once again, the minute that happened, security that was there at the facility, again, according to the sheriff there on the ground, saw this person and, quote, engaged him with gunfire. He went on to say, quote, engaged the threat. Again, those are the words of the sheriff there on the ground. So again, we're looking at a massive police presence, law enforcement presence there on the ground in West Bloomfield, Michigan, about 25 miles northwest of Detroit, a suburb of Detroit, as law enforcement now tries to get their handle on, are we dealing with one person? Has that person been neutralized? Are we dealing with more than one person? These are some of the questions now we're trying to find out for you.
Jason, please let us know when you hear more. Let's get more analysis now from CNN senior law enforcement analyst, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Andy, I want to get your read on what we heard from Sheriff Bouchard there. He was asked specifically if the perpetrator had been neutralized. He said, we don't have them in custody. And then when asked if that person was still on the run, he answered, it's still a work in progress. It's a large facility and there's a lot of land around it. He said, we're trying to sort it out. What do you, and how do you interpret that?
Yeah, it's a little tough to sort through that. And this is typical. I don't think this is a problem that the sheriff has created in any way. It's just the fog of war at this moment, trying to sort through what the facts are on the ground. I will tell you that having been involved in many situations like this, you go into them knowing that most of the information you're going to get early on ends up being wrong. So that being said, it sounded he was very definitive.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I'm sorry. We've got some breaking updates that I do want to go to Jason Carroll for. We'll come right back to you.
Thank you, Jessica. And I just now want to report, according to a law enforcement official there on the ground, the gunman who was involved with this incident at Temple, Israel, that gunman is apparently dead. We are just now getting that report. You remember that Sheriff Michael Bouchard from Oakland County there on the ground said just a short while ago, when he was speaking to reporters there on the ground, he had indicated that a security officer there at the temple had engaged this suspect with gunfire there on the ground. He said, quote, had engaged the threat. We can now report that that gunman is in fact dead. The sheriff there on the ground had indicated that no one else had been hurt in this incident. But again, we can now report, according to a source there on the ground, that the gunman at the synagogue is in fact dead. And again, a lot of concerns about going forward. Are we dealing with one suspect? Are we dealing with more than one suspect? These are some of the questions now that are still, at least at this point, still very early on, but at this point still outstanding, because the sheriff had also indicated that they were trying to sort out whether or not they were dealing with one suspect. Are they dealing with more than one suspect? This will be part of the investigation and that sort of search they're going on the ground at the moment, because not only do they have to secure the building, even though this one suspect is dead, they want to be sure, are they dealing with one person? Are they dealing with more than one person? These are going to be some of the questions and some of the outstanding factors that they're going to be dealing with going forward.
All right, Jason Carroll, thank you so much for that. We can go back now to Andy McCabe. I was sorry to interrupt you there, but we did have that breaking news. So now we know this gunman is dead. And Andy, we had heard from the sheriff there that the security that was positioned already, just because of the world we live in, at that synagogue, engaged with this person. And now we do have this confirmation that this suspect is dead.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We also heard from the sheriff that there were no other people kind of currently in jeopardy. They didn't remove the children from the location. So essentially, time is on the sheriff's side now. They have a large facility there. They're going to need to clear the entire thing. They're probably going to want to take a look in the the wooded area around the facility, but they don't have to rush in. There's no shots being fired currently. They're not aware of anybody being held hostage. So as the sheriff mentioned, they're going to first look at the interior surveillance video to see if they find any signals or traces that there might be another gunman in the facility. And then they're going to go through that facility in what we call a slow clear. They're going to take tactical teams that are really going to take their time and be very careful and check every inch of it. I should also say, one of the things that's been apparent to me from the time that the video from the scene that we're seeing now has been on the air is you haven't seen the sort of response that you would expect to see if it was an ongoing situation, right? You see a lot of law enforcement officers, some very heavily kitted out with tactical gear, and they are not racing from their cars towards the building. They are kind of coordinating with each other and you know, taking care of their equipment and things like that. And that's always a telltale sign that the shooting portion of this horrific event is probably behind us.
Yeah, Andy, please stand by. We want to bring in Noah Arbit now, a Michigan State Representative, a member of Temple Israel. Noah, thank you so much for being with us. It makes me sad that it's under these circumstances, but I do wonder what is going through your mind right now, hearing that there was an attack on a place that you have had a lot of experience with, that you cherish.
It's my worst nightmare, frankly. I was bar mitzvahed at Temple Israel. I campaigned on taking on hate crimes because this is the community that I love, and I know that it's an important issue to the community here in West Bloomfield. And we held a hate crimes town hall last year at Temple Israel, and the security was incredibly robust. And, you know, all the rabbis that I love, I mean, I think it's important to understand this is the largest synagogue in North America, and by membership. And the idea that, you know, this issue that I work a lot on, hate crimes and domestic terrorism, would come home to roost at my synagogue in my own community is simply my worst nightmare.
It's so understandable, and we're so sorry that you are going through this. I can't imagine what it's like to, I know you know so many people there and are worried about them, although we do have that that news that we wanted to hear, which is that there are no injuries that the sheriff can report besides the suspect. Help people understand, this is a large Jewish community in Michigan. I think that community is actually the largest Jewish community kind of in the Midwest, so it's a robust community. Explain that to people.
Well, yeah, West Bloomfield has the largest Jewish community in Michigan. This is Temple Israel is the largest synagogue in Michigan, in the United States, in North America by membership. And I think what's really important to understand is, you know, the building, as beautiful as it is, and it is a beautiful, beautiful building, can be replaced. But what cannot heal, I don't think at this time, is our community's, you know, impending sense of insecurity, which we have been feeling more and more. I want your viewers to really understand that when we talk about anti-Semitism, it's live, it's real. It's not something that's from the 1930s. It is a real, deadly threat against your Jewish neighbors all across the United States and in the country. This is now the 5th synagogue attack this week, 2 in Toronto, 1 in Baltimore, and 1 in Liège, Belgium, and now in West Bloomfield, in my hometown. And I think it's really important to understand that the relationship between hate speech and hate violence is cause and effect. And so when people don't stand up and speak out, or even worse, justify anti-Jewish rhetoric or discourse, it becomes a permission structure for people to view all Jews and Jewish institutions as legitimate targets of violence.
Yeah, and I think you're underscoring something that's really important, which is just the general fear that it hums beneath the surface in the Jewish community for so many people right now, and that they're looking at their screen and this is the nightmare come true. And that is just the state of things. And you know, we know that there is already security there at the synagogue. They were the ones, according to authorities, that interacted with this suspect in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to understand that this is an incredibly welcoming congregation. We have an anti-racism task force. You know, we are constantly, you know, working on partnerships and events with different communities that are not Jewish, and interfaith work, and work with the Iraqi Chaldean community that's very prevalent here in West Bloomfield. And so the idea that, you know, that the Jewish community, and, you know, many Jewish communities in the United States and across the world are like that, because we, you know, it's part of our value system that we want to build bridges with other communities and with other types of people. And the idea that the Jewish community would come for such vitriol and such targeted attack, both rhetorical and in terms of physical violence, is shocking. It's sad, and it must end.
Noah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Noah Arbid, a Michigan State representative, a member of Temple Israel. We appreciate you sharing your story. Let's go back to Jason Carroll, because Jason, you're learning more about this suspect.
Yeah, and Boris, as promised, we just want to bring you details as we're getting them in. And this one, just giving you a little bit more in terms of exactly how things happened there on the ground. Apparently, the suspect rammed a car into the synagogue and had a rifle in his possession when it happened. After his car hit the building, that is at the point where security at some point opened fire with the suspect. And security was then able to kill the suspect. This, again, coming from a law enforcement official there on the ground. But I just want to caution, this is still very early on. Some of these details, we may get more. We will clearly get more details. But this law enforcement official on the ground just wanted to caution that they're still in the early stages of their investigation. But it does confirm what we had reported earlier in the initial report, that someone had driven their car into Temple Israel and opened fire. And so this law enforcement official on the ground confirming that not only did this suspect drive his car into the synagogue, but had a rifle in his possession. And thankfully, to the quick thinking of the security guard there at the temple, was able to open fire with the suspect and take him out. And you remember the sheriff there, Michael Bouchard from Oakland County, there on the ground, when he gave that statement, he said that security was able to, quote, engage the threat, and that there was no active stimulus at the moment. No active stimulus, perhaps that means, again, that the situation has been neutralized, but they want to be sure that they're dealing with, are they dealing with one suspect? Are they dealing with more than one suspect? That's why you're hearing from your security experts there that that building has to be cleared. The surrounding area, which is a large area surrounding the temple, that has to be cleared as well. And in terms of follow-up, they're going to be checking with the FBI, other law enforcement officials there as well, to do all that they can to make sure that to find out if this person acted alone, did this person have connection with others.